Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to our fourth podcast. It's pretty exciting. So you're here for Halcyon Days, the Estate Sale and Beyond. Like I said, this is episode 4. I am George. He is Josh. How are you,
What's up?
Josh?
What's up? Good, George. How you doing?
I'm doing swell. Long
Swell.
days.
Long days.
So, but I have some good news. Let me pull
Okay.
it up. The podcast is starting to get some recognition in terms of the actual podcast. The YouTube stuff, even though we're live, I mean not live, but we're on YouTube where people can see us, the downloads are actually starting to turn up a little bit. So it's pretty cool. Nothing major, we're not breaking any records or anything, but so we have 28 total downloads now, which has gone up again. And then
Nice.
we have a new listener in Columbus, Ohio. So now we
Ooh,
have listeners in California, in Kansas, in
Ohio.
Ohio, in Maine, not Maine, sorry, in Maryland, and obviously Pennsylvania, and then Brussels.
Oh,
So, so our international national podcast is growing. So it's pretty cool. The YouTube is, like I said, a little slow. TikTok is a little slow, but we're doing some good stuff with the podcast, and I think it's a positive, you know.
I agree.
So
I agree. Any growth
so
is good
today,
growth.
I'm sorry, I talked over you. What?
No, no, you're fine. And any growth is good growth.
True that. So today we're going to talk about maximizing profits at estate sale. So I'm going to let you start us off, good sir.
Yeah. So, what we're basically going to talk about today is just how not only as like an estate sale company you can maximize your profits, but if you're shopping estate sales, how to maximize your profits coming out of an estate sale. So some of the tools we use when we're pricing stuff, and then even when we've gone to shop estate sales, what tools we use while we're at the estate sales that we're shopping. Um, so yeah, the episode today is maximizing profits at estate sales. Very exciting stuff. So,
Yeah, I mean, it is
um,
exciting.
thank you, thank you, appreciate that. Anyway, so obviously the importance of maximizing profits. If you're not going to maximize profits, why are you in business? Or whether you're buying uh, stuff from an estate sale or trying to sell stuff at the estate sale. So obviously, like location is going to be a factor, right? When if we're talking about from the side of running an estate sale, maximizing profits. Uh, what are some key factors that you feel we have used when planning an estate sale to maximize our profits?
Well, I don't think that we necessarily, when we accept the estate sales, that we look too much into this, but it's how once we accept it, we try to maximize the profit. So like location obviously is huge, but if it's in a tough location, it would just change the way we set it up.
Hmm.
I'll give you an example. We had an estate sale that was off of a busy road, and we had lots of customers coming in because they saw our estate sale signs.
Yeah.
Then that was like at least 40% of our customers, right? Um, so like good location, signs visible, but if you're out in the country and there's not a lot of traffic, those signs don't do much other than guide people in that were already looking for us. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, that kind of, so how we set it up and where we advertise, that the location plays a role in that, I think.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, like the one thing that I'll say is like one of the things that we tend to do when we get a location is we start to look up like others types of sales that might be happening on different weekends. Because if
Hmm.
there's already natural traffic coming in, even if it's like a out there location, that type of traffic like will help maximize profits because you're getting traffic from customers who are already coming out to the area for a specific reason.
Yeah.
I think like one of the sales where they were like they hired us and they were like, we need you in ASAP so we can get out ASAP. Like you don't have a lot of time to plan. When we looked it up, all of the yard sales had happened like the week before
Hmm.
like that they like if we would have done it that week and we would have had way better sales. Like the neighborhood alone had like 3 yard sales in it. Like we would have just had more like natural traffic. And
Yeah.
then the day of that sale, like all of the like local like yard sales, garage sales, other estate sales were on the other side of town, right?
Yep.
And big town, like they're not gonna like come all the way to the other side of town for one sale.
Yep. That's the timing thing. That's where knowing that our advertising has to be that much better to show people the value of why they would come over here. Right? So we have to highlight specific things. We got to know what's going to drive traffic. What do our customers like to buy? That kind of stuff. I mean that kind of fits in the timing. And the other thing is like knowing what days to have the sale. We're not the typical estate sale, and we do things Thursday, Friday, Saturday, whereas a lot of estate sales do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But Thursday, it's working out for us because Thursday is actually, at least in Pennsylvania, it's a big yard sale day.
Yeah,
Where when the weather's warm. So Thursday it's a little bit of our older clientele, but we get traffic on Thursday, and then Saturday is typically our lower cost day where things could be up to 50% off. And if people shop estate sales, they know that they can hit us on Saturday, get that deal, then hit other estate sales on that Sunday and get that deal. So it does bring in traffic like that. I think having a unique, time frame helps us.
yeah. Especially like for people who are shopping those type of sales, they tend to be more serious. So they come in knowing like what they're gonna spend and they know what they're looking for. Whereas like a lot of yard sales, you get like the driver buyers where they literally like do the thing where they slow down and
Hmm.
then they speed up, right? Or they come in, they're literally just looking. Um, Thursday, you get kind of like the more serious buyers.
Hmm.
Um, and more times than not, like we'll see those same buyers multiple times then through that sale.
Yeah, and I think timing. Another thing about timing, and I'm not sure if it fits specifically into this, is we're still ironing out this, but how long do we go until? So we
Yeah,
started until 3, right? We were like, we're going to do it until 3 o'clock, give people time to get here. But we have found at about 12 or 1, it dies
got
down dramatically. So
yeah,
we've
for
messed
the
around
majority of
with
sales.
closing. Yep, we've messed around with ending them at 1, at least on Thursday and Friday. And sometimes it feels like we get some people right up at that 1 o'clock time. So but it's a tricky thing. If we advertise 1 o'clock and create a little bit of urgency to get to us, maybe that's a good thing. But if the traffic is there, we're gonna stay anyway. We're
Yeah,
not gonna shut people out and be like, nope, 1 o'clock, get out, come back tomorrow. But you know, um, yeah,
yeah. There's not been enough sales for us to like gather like I guess a collective perfect ending time. Especially like if you're paying staff, right? Like that's like another thing. Like that comes out of our profits. We've talked about that before on the podcast. So if we like say we pay our staff X amount of dollars per day, and now we're staying open, and then after one we have one sale for $20.
yeah,
Is it worth paying 3 employees to staff that location for those last 2 hours, right?
yeah,
Or can we pay them less because it's a shorter day and at one?
yeah. That's a tough thing. Um, Market demand, that for me, like that's like for the products that are in the home, what's going to sell, what's not going to sell, that kind of thing. And that I think requires a lot of like upfront honesty with the client. There's a lot of people think that, oh, I have this really nice couch, I paid, $3,000 for it, it's going to sell really well. There's just not a huge need for furniture, especially people shopping day of. So that's when like we have figured out that it makes more sense to advertise that stuff on like
Yeah,
marketplace and things like that ahead of time, so that way, and just say we won't sell it until the day of the sale, but just so that it's out there, you know, that way people will come specifically because they need a couch and they know that it's there and we put the dimensions and all that other good stuff,
yeah,
so we've learned that over time. We were left with some furniture that when you finally put that out there, we ended up having a rush of people come get stuff like the freezer and couch. And
hmm
one client, there was that giant, we'll call it a hutch, I guess. that was massive, and we actually had it advertised on Facebook, and we sold it a week after the sale.
Yeah.
And we just met the customer there at the client's house, and got them all loaded up. They brought like 3 or 4 guys because it was heavy and large, and everything was good. You know, but
Hmm. Yeah. Now, I will say, like the flip side, I mean, well, we can come back to like market demand. On the flip side of like location and timing, just like planning a yard like around time where like yard sales and garage sales are happening, that well, at least I thought so. It can also hurt sometimes because the customers coming in are in a yard sale garage sale mentality.
mhm.
So that has something that we've had to like overcome is like the challenge of pricing for certain things. Um, I just wanted to make sure I had that thought, and then we moved on to market demand. I want to make sure I
Yeah, that's fine.
touched back.
I mean,
That's
anybody
definitely
who's
something.
listened to us who knows that we're like we're gonna bounce back and forth. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely something like you're gonna have to be prepared for if you're managing an estate sale company, or even if you're just having a yard sale or garage sale. Like the type of customers you're gonna get, they're really gonna want to hackle down. And you're gonna need to know what you have and the actual value, not just the emotional, nostalgic value of what you have. Just because you paid $3,000 for a couch doesn't mean you're gonna get 3,000, right? Like you're
You're not
probably
gonna
not
get
even
a
gonna get it.
thousand.
Yeah, you're not even gonna get a third, right? That's what I was gonna say. So way to read my mind there, Georgie.
Yeah.
But yeah, market demand is definitely gonna be like so. Um, Knowing what's popular, what's selling, right? And that's a lot of times that's knowing the trends by following people like us, right? Like so, or other YouTubers or podcasters who are shopping estate sales and then reselling stuff, right? Like they'll tell you what is selling, right? And then you'll get to
Mhm.
an estate sale and you'll be like, oh, this sells really good. And I mean that's more George's background because he was a online reseller, so like he knows certain things. Like I would have never thought blow molds. That's what they're called, right? The big
Yep.
like the
The
things that
Christmas
my
thing.
parents had. Yeah, yeah. I would never have thought twice. Like I probably would have this wrote them off, right? But George like had he knew what their demand was and their value and was able to sell them at a really decent price, way above what I would have posted them at or agreed upon.
Yeah, but I mean, on that, for our pricing, if we don't know, we're doing research anyway. I think we actually talk about that here in one of these things, but um, maybe not. But we're gonna look it up. If we don't know it, we're gonna look it up and see what it's sold for, where it's sold, if it's on marketplace or if it's somewhere else. And then we typically will price it slightly lower than that, whatever we see like the average is.
Mhm.
Because we want it to go. I mean,
We've kind of touched in the past on the different types of estate sales. So, and then that obviously is going to like maximize like the type of
yeah.
profits, right? So, like if you have an estate sale where they're downsizing or there's they need to get out fast, right? That's definitely going to hurt your profits because the sense of urgency to sell stuff is higher than the sense of urgency to maximize profits,
Hmm.
right? If you get in there and you have time to price everything correctly, kind of do your research, make it look as professional as possible, that's going to always maximize your profits. But if you get in there and they give you a week to get ready, and that's from like start to finish, where you meet with them, they notify you, they tell you when they want to have the sale, and they give you 3 4 days to prep, it's definitely going to hurt your profits, right?
Yeah.
Which
Well, by a week, you mean like, just so we're clear with everybody else out there, like not a full week. He means coming in on Monday for our sale that's on Thursday.
yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
just there's the sense of urgency to get the sale set up and not a lot of time to actually like prep. So like when it's like a liquidation, moving, downsizing, if you don't have like the proper time or you don't give the company the proper time to set up your estate sale, it's definitely going to hurt your profits. So that's just something like it's definitely not something that you want to drag your feet on if you're a potential client of ours in the future. Like you want to make sure that you give them enough time to get in there and really dive deep into what you have, because that's just going to put more money in your pocket.
Yep. And then the if you're a company who's doing an estate sale and you don't have a lot of time, the priority would be to at least organize things the best way you can together, right?
Yes.
So like all the Christmas things together, like all like artwork together, that kind of stuff. Put it all together and present it well, even if you can't get it priced,
Yeah.
because then it's at least shoppable for the customers. And I mean, we're upfront and honest with all of our customers, so we tell them, hey, unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to get a price for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about best offers, and we're gonna try to make you a good deal. And we've gone through that week and found like certain items that we knew were the higher value items and put prices on them. But a lot of times there'll be like knickknacks and stuff that we just didn't have time because,
Hmm.
like what Josh is referring to, when it's a short sale like that, you know, going in there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday with people still in the house and not having full access to everything, you're pretty limited. You can't spend 8 hours there listening to music pricing, and like you can't do it because it's invading their space even though they want it sold. It's like a
Yeah, or
dance
they
that you got to try
distract
to
you,
pull in.
or they distract you. They want to talk to you,
Yep.
um,
So
which definitely hurts your time. Um,
yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. Um,
All right. Well, this is kind of where the pricing comes in. Um, I mean, the steps to take to prepare a successful estate sale. Obviously, pricing is huge. If you can get things priced at least 75% things priced, you're going to be in great shape. You're going to increase the value. You're going to make a lot more profit because people will see it and they're going to pay it.
mhm.
If they're not priced, they're going to usually try to put things together and come up with a pretty low ball offer. I mean, we've seen some crazy low offers, but if they're priced, we might be able to come down a little bit from that, depending on the item. But they're not gonna, if I've got something priced for $20, they're not gonna offer me two, you know.
Yeah,
So they might say, will you take 15?
15.
You know,
Yeah,
um, whereas if it wasn't priced, they may say, will you take two? And then we're so far off, I might end up taking 10 if I'm lucky, So like that, it is super important to get things priced if you can, and it just adds credibility to you as a company.
yeah, yeah. Um, what type of tools do we use, George? Do you want to go over that?
Yeah, so if we're if we can find it on things like eBay or Facebook Marketplace and look at what it's sold, because that is the same customer base shopping, right?
Hmm.
So the same people coming to estate sales are the people going to, you know, who are buying on Facebook Marketplace, and that kind of stuff. And so I'd like to get it priced there. If it's an item like the rifles, right? We go
Yep.
to an expert, we get them appraised, and we come up with a price that we think is fair. Almost like, for example, the guns that we sold, we had them appraised by a gun dealer, and I would say we got about 90% of the value of the appraisal for all of those
Yeah.
guns. So same thing will
Definitely not
happen
our
if it's
background.
Yep. Same thing if it's jewelry, we'll take it to a jeweler and try to get them evaluated that way. If it's antiques that we can't find, we'll go to an antique shop or whatever, and we find experts in the field if we can't figure it out. So we're always going to try to get the true value of them. But again, just because there's a value assigned does not mean that's what people are willing to pay you know
Yeah.
so things that have value like that, you got to find that customer. So that's where the advertising comes back in.
Hmm. Yeah. So just to touch back on like when we are doing research and stuff. So not only do we check like those specific websites like Marketplace and eBay, but one of the like two of the things that we're looking at was looking at what is actually sold, right?
Yeah,
So like you'll
definitely.
see like you can filter out on eBay to like if you hit other options you can hit like see sold items, and so
Hmm.
you can see what's actually selling, and then not only that, like the price that it's sold at and how when was the last time it was sold, right? So if you
Yep.
have an item, right, that you might have 30 of them listed for $500, but then you go to sold and really only three have sold in the last 3 months for $30, right? Like
Yep.
that's the actual value of that product. It doesn't matter that there's 30 items listed for 500. That doesn't mean that that person's going to get whatever that math is. It's really
Hmm.
what it's selling at. And you can kind of do similar things with marketplace. You
You
can like
can
look at,
you can go by sold
right,
on
like
marketplace.
I don't know if you necessarily can see what it sold for, um, but like you can see what the interest is, right? So
If
like,
they did it through if they did it through marketplace. So like I don't know if you've ever sold anything on marketplace out there, but if you sell it on marketplace, you don't necessarily have to sell it on marketplace. You just start messaging them, and then
mhm,
you make the transaction like by hand, meeting them somewhere or whatever the case may be. But sometimes people send an offer through and they accept it, and then you can see that, if that makes
yeah,
sense. So,
yeah,
I mean, a lot of times you don't know, but you know,
that's why we're here.
yep.
It's true for sure.
All right, what about
Uh,
staging?
Staging, as in like how we set up the sale,
Hmm.
or sorry, sale.
Yep.
So staging is very key. So if you've ever gone into a store where there's just a mess, it's just a mess. Like you can't walk through it. Like there's stuff on the floor. Um, you might do like a walkthrough, but when there's just too much stuff that you feel like you can't navigate, or you have to look at too much stuff, it's a turn off for customers, right? Like their brain can't in that moment process what they're looking at, and they become overwhelmed. Especially if it's all over the place and not priced, right? Uh, that's one of the biggest feedbacks we've gotten from customers is like around pricing, because they feel like they have more power to negotiate, right? When they don't know what the price is or they don't know where to look, they leave and go somewhere else. So how do you set up? I think what like the first estate sale that George ever took me to, when we were walking up, there was like a bunch of boxes on the lawn. Like they just had stuff like free like the cut for their. Oh, I hit my mic. Sorry. They they for the customers to take into the sale to like put stuff in, right? But they're just thrown on the lawn, right? It's early, so like the grass is wet, right? So the boxes are all wet, and then you walk in this like in the house, and there's just stuff everywhere, right? And it's not like a hoarder house or anything like that. They didn't use any tables. There was stuff like in like on the ground with things in front of it. And like at one point, I was like, oh, like look at that, like George, do you see that? And I had to like put my hand on the wall to like lean over to like pick up the item, right? So it's like a tripping hazard, right? So like,
It was like a almost a 2 to 3 foot on the ground from the wall out, which is
right,
pretty impossible to reach the stuff. If you see something that you like that's near the wall, like that
you have
is
to
just the
kick
worst
it.
kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no organization, right? And then like you walked out into the living room, and like there was like stuff, like it was just there was no, they didn't even try to like put it out like an outline, like it was just stuff in the middle of the room. So staging and how you present things is definitely going to be a huge reason why you maximize your profits or you lose a bunch of money. So like we like even still like George will send me messages about like a post like, do you want to like drive to Maryland and get tables? I'd be like, no. But if the deal is right, then the deal is right. Because the more tables we have, is it's better to have too many tables than not enough, right? We've had to like do very strategic things with tables to make sure that like it is as presentable as possible.
Yeah,
Um,
tables are a very expensive item that, it's just at least for us, we're not going to go buy, 20 brand new tables. So we buy some tables that are not even close to looking great, but we just cover them. We have like a light blue sheets, actually, not even tablecloths. So we have like it's kind of our color, and we have them covered and look presentable, and you wouldn't know that they're like beat up or that, like, they're peeling underneath or anything like that, because it doesn't need to be the best looking table. We just don't want to have different heights to,
yeah,
touching each other. But so if we can make them look uniform and nice and pretty, I mean that's what we
yeah.
do. So
And then we
we
try to
find
set
tables.
the same types of tables up in the same area. So like we have square tables, so we have what like the standard like plastic rectangle ones. Like we'll set up a
Mhm,
lot of square ones in the same room, so it's the same height, same size. It's like kind of like symmetry.
mhm. Yeah, we have the card tables. We've got a bunch of them. And then we've got the standard 4-foot plastic tables like you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. And then another thing that we really try to do is we try to put like items together. So like we'll get all of the seasonal items that people will have around their house, and we'll try to keep those together, right? So like it doesn't matter if it's like a summer season or a winter holiday season, like we'll try to keep that stuff together because it's all
Mm-hmm.
seasonal, right? Or like glassware we try to keep in the kitchen because that's where people can imagine that it's going to like be in their house. We'll try to keep clothing. Like one of the things that we'll do is we'll try to move all of the clothing to one room, right? Or another strategy we've done with clothing is we've put like there was a house we did where the customer had like it was like a mix, right? They had a room full of used clothes and a room full of new clothes. And that's kind of like how we kept it. So we kept all like the shoes that were still in their shoe boxes and still had tags on it. We kept them separate from the room where the clothes were worn or didn't have tags. Um, and it kind of like like nice room, used room.
Mm-hmm.
And then same thing with
Well,
like knickknacks.
we also with clothing, if there's multiple people or multiple like sizes, we would keep them separate as well. So like
Mhm.
if there's or multiple genders or whatever the case may be, right? We would keep them separate. And then the house that you were talking about, that was a single person's house. She passed away, but she did have a ton of clothes with the tag still on them. So there, it's obviously more value. So we kept them, like Josh said, we put them all in the closet, looking nice, presentable, and then the other ones we did like fill a bag, So
Mhm.
it just depended on what we were gonna do. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but definitely how you set the sale up is going to definitely maximize your profits, and it's going to do a lot of good for your customer retention, right?
mm,
We get a lot of really good feedback for how our sales look and how well they're priced and how well they're organized. Um, Customers can actually come in, they can look, they can shop, they can feel like they can find what they're looking for more
mhm.
easily than other local estate sale companies that we have seen
Yeah,
and that they have seen.
it makes sense to them. They're like, oh, this is where this is, and then they look through that and then cool. You're not going to find Christmas decorations in this room and then Christmas decorations downstairs and then unless there's like a huge amount that like we picked out some really good ones to highlight and then we say to them, hey, we have a full Christmas selection downstairs, but we have a few to look at up here. But we're talking with our customers and we're doing that. It's not
Yeah.
that's deliberate. That's like kind of creating a storefront, but other than that, I mean, we did the one house that we were just talking about. This woman had, I don't know, what, 7 rocking chairs, right, throughout the entire house.
It was more
So
than that.
I don't even know, but I took them and lined them all up in a row in the living room, and then we ended up having a customer buy like what 6 of them, 5 of them, whatever they bought like at the end
Mhm.
there, and it was because they were all together and they weren't just like picking them, here and there.
Yeah.
We try to keep everything, and she had like rabbit stuffed animals, so we put one on each seat. We made it look really nice. Everything was
Yeah.
priced well. We had like the price on the wall for the different sizes. You know, it was really nice, and people
Yeah.
definitely appreciated it.
She had also had like a large collection of roosters, and we put any rooster that we found we put together because like then we
Mhm.
found that apparently that's a market, right? Like there are customers who collect
Uh-huh.
roosters.
Yep.
And by having them all together, like we sold through the pretty much the entire collection. Whereas if a customer has to walk and find every rooster, they may not have even bought one, but because they saw them all together, they were able to find what they were looking for. So
Or they may
staging
have
it,
only bought one because they
right,
only saw one. They didn't see the
right.
other part of the house or whatever, and
Yeah.
you know,
Staging is definitely one of our more time consuming parts of the sales setup. There are multiple times where like George will be working and he'll put in a lot of work and then I'll come in and I'll be like, this well, let's move this here, let's move this there. And there's a lot of back and forth. Or like we get it all set up and it's like this doesn't look good. Like we gotta change this. Let's move this to a different room or whatever. So it's kind of like a fine art in terms of how that looks.
yeah,
But it definitely has made a huge difference just from the customers that have come to our sales.
yeah. In that, really quick before you go to the next one, we maximize like the flow of traffic. So like
Yep.
we don't have things like in the way, you know, like there's definitely like a pattern of like a flow that we encourage people to walk through where it's not uncomfortable for them because there's product everywhere and that kind of stuff. It's literally like a shoppable. I mean, the only thing I can compare it to is a storefront. And you and I both have the retail background, and we both understand merchandising and making things presentable for our customers. So we have that whole mentality while we're setting it up. Like how are
Hmm.
people going to be? Is a person going to be able to look at this while a person's looking at that? Make sure that we do all of that like
Hmm.
as part of the plan.
Yeah. I mean, even on top of that, like if like, we go back to the kitchen, right? Like, so we'll take all of the utensils and stuff out of the drawers, right? Like customers don't have to dig to find what's there; it's out in the open in some capacity, right?
Yeah.
We try to like make sure like if we're selling a dresser, that the dresser's empty, right? They don't have to like dig through clothes in a dresser to buy the dresser, right?
Yeah.
Like just
If
small,
possible.
if possible, yeah, for sure. But I mean, like that has helped, right? Like
Mhm.
there's not like one, you should go through everything, right? If you're prepping an estate sale, but two, when customers have to do work themselves, they're less likely to do the work, right? When it's all out there, they can walk into a room, they can see everything. It's all out in the open. They're more likely to take the time, especially if it's organized, to just pick through and find what they want to find. All right, so we're going to move on to the next part, strategies for buyers. Is what we'll call this section, this segment of the
Okay.
podcast episode. So, what advice, George, would you give estate sale shoppers on how to identify valuable items and negotiate favorable deals?
For us, I mean, the value you're going to know because it's going to be priced. You know. Also, I would say, I mean, not just us. So most estate sale companies are going to put things up front that they want to sell. You know, one, they want to make sure they can keep an eye on them. But two, they want you to be excited when you first walk in. So part of the fun of it is discovering, right? When you're shopping estate sales, going through the closet, like whatever, and like finding the really cool thing. But other parts of it are you just walking in and being like, oh, that's gorgeous. I really like that or that kind of thing. So having them displayed properly up front is another way to show like that they do have value. We had an estate sale where the daughter was a huge Disney fanatic, right?
Mm,
And I don't remember what the dolls were called, but she had a
the
perfect like planter
statues.
shelf. What?
Oh, yeah, she had statues, and then she had like the almost like baby dolls, but they were like the
But
big
they're like
ones.
standing dolls, and when you walked into the house, they were up front and present, and people loved them because they looked really good. They were very cartoony looking, like they were, Moana had like sand on her feet. Like
High
they were
quality,
really cool. What?
high quality as well.
Yeah, yeah. So that kind of stuff, putting it up front, priced, accurate, clean, it shows the value, I think. So as you're shopping, it's right there for you.
Um, Yeah, I mean, so if you're stop shopping estate sales, like obviously, like you have a business, and that business probably has a niche, right? So like maybe you're into sports stuff, so you'll see the value in quickly in sports items, or maybe you're a collector of a certain genre, like Disney, right? So like anything Disney, like you're gonna take notice to. Um, but when we have been prepping sales, we have found some pretty interesting stuff that intrigued us enough to like look up the value of, and we found that they were pretty valuable things, that
Hmm.
if we hadn't done the research, we would have let them go at a significantly lesser price. So if you are going to shop at a estate sale and something catches your eye, take the time to do quickly, just even if it's like 5-10 minutes, like do the research
Hmm.
on the item, because you never know, like it might be something that you can sell, um, and make profit on.
Yeah. Too often, I think people resellers are not. It's like they're not willing or they're not comfortable enough to look things up on their phone in front of like people like us at like estate sale companies. We encourage it. It's look it up. find it. If you can get it for a good price, like we're selling it for, and you think you can sell it for more, cool. If you're a collector and you just love it, and you see what we're selling it for, and you want to see where else you can get it, and if you can get it in cheaper anywhere else, do that. That's fine. Um, I would say, like, more power to you. We've already done that research, so we feel comfortable with our pricing. But if you can find something that we didn't find, and you want to say, hey, I see that it's sold here, for this amount of money. Would you take this amount of money? I mean, we're going to
Mhm.
consider it. Um, the other thing I would say, for if you're going to shop estate sales, is start looking for them at the beginning of the week. Find the ones that you want to go to, and then look at the pictures, right? So have an idea of what's at the estate sale, see what you want to go in there for. And then when you come in there, you can be like, hey, I saw this in the picture. Can you tell me where that is? And we can point you in like the direction. So you go right there, grab the thing that you're really excited about, and then walk around and try to find some other stuff. So that
Yeah.
if you just see us, if you just see our sign and you want to come in, that's cool, but you're at a little bit of a disadvantage in terms of, like, hey, this valuable thing I saw, let me go get it, whereas other people might be lining up before we open because of that specific thing that they're coming in for.
Yeah. And then on top of that, like build the rapport with the people who are running the estate sales, right? So we've had a lot of customers who are like, hey, I'm looking for like this specific type of product, right? Like if it's ever at any of your estate sales, let me know. Here's my number. They give us our business card. And like that way we like, and then when we have the sale that has those items, we can let them know. And then generally like that has brought in business for us, right? Beyond just that like one person, because they bring people, right? So like if you're shopping estate sales and you have a specific niche, like say your niche is tools, right? Like you resell used tools, right? Like tell that to the people running the estate sales, because they're going to be the ones who let you know up front, like, hey, like I have that certain brand of tools at this next estate sale, right? And then that way you can get in there first and get the tools that you're going to sell. There's we definitely have this type of customers who like they sell this item and this brand, and they want to know up front, like, hey, if you ever have an estate sale and has this, email me specifically, like directly, communicate with me directly.
Hmm. And we've mentioned before, for our customers, we ask them all if they want to sign up to get emails, from us, and we don't bombard anybody with emails. This is what you'll get from us if you're our customer. You'll get a thank you for coming to the sale, and then you'll get, a notification when our next sale is.
Yeah.
That's it. We don't randomly send out emails, and of course we don't sell your information. It's just Josh and I. We're not we're not some corporation, so
Yeah.
simple.
And then that also gives you the opportunity to email them directly. Hey, do you have this specific product? Like you can kind of maybe start that process in advance, right? Like now, like Georgia said it before, like we don't ever sell anything before, but like you can maybe start to like plan and negotiate out in advance, like what they have, and like then be like the first one there, right? Um,
Yeah, I would say that we're not opposed necessarily to sell things before the estate sale. So, like, if we advertise something on Facebook Marketplace, but we don't put it, I mean, we just advertise the item as like for sale, right? But we don't put it in our ad for the estate sale, then I'm not opposed to selling it. If I have it in an ad telling people we have an estate sale and you have a picture of it, there's no way I'm going to sell that thing before the estate sale, because then it's like we false advertising, or we misled people, or it's like bait and switch, and all that stuff, and we don't play that game. And we've had people reach out to us because they saw the pictures and they want to buy the stuff, you know sometimes I don't mind letting people, if we have the time or the space, I don't mind letting people come check it out ahead of time, but they'll have to wait until the day of and wait online just like anybody else. And then if the first person in line bought the thing that they wanted and they're the third person in line, then that's how it is, you know. But if I need to sell furniture, like I said before, I'm not going to really advertise the furniture for the sale. I might say the word furniture, but I'm not going to put pictures of everything on that. I'll put individual sale pictures on Facebook Marketplace, and if someone wants to buy it on Tuesday when we're setting up the sale, I'm going to let them buy it,
yeah,
because we don't know if it's going to sell. So
Yeah. I will even generally try to post that separately in advance because furniture is one of the things that takes a little bit longer to sell. So trying to sell it in a 3 day window can be kind of rough, especially like if you don't end up selling it like till the last day. And then definitely like prep your route, right? Like, so if you're gonna hit up an estate sale, like we kind of talked about it earlier in this episode about like if an estate sale is off in no man's land, right, and all the other sales are happening, like you could waste 30, 40 minutes driving out to that sale. But if they've misadvertised or you get out there and they've sold a bunch of stuff before the sale even started, like you've now wasted potentially 2 hours of your day and potential revenue loss, right? So like try to plan your routes based off where you're headed and what traffic's in the area, especially if it's an estate sale company that you're not familiar with, right? Like if you don't know, do they sell things in advance, right? Like you could be driving out there and something that they have listed isn't there because they sold it 3 days ago, and
I'd say
you
just
drove
look
out
them up
there.
on Google. Look them up on Google. See if there's any reviews. If they do that, they'll piss people off enough, and
Yeah,
they
that's
will
a
leave
trend.
reviews. I think that's one of our. I would venture to say that the bulk majority of estate sale companies don't sell things that they've advertised before the sale. You know, I think it's too damaging to their reputation if they were to do that. All right, what's next? The role of technology. It's everything that we've already talked about. So, just making sure you're trying to utilize everything. We have so many things at our disposal. So you've got all the social media sites, use it. You have no idea if you're afraid to get in front of the camera, get over your fears. You have no idea if it's going to work or not. You, you- don't be afraid to go live on Facebook. I did that a couple times when we were at the sale. Went like, hey, we're live, we're on Facebook, we're in one of the groups, and you know walking around showing pictures of, like showing video of what's there, what time we're going to be there till. you know there's a line. Sometimes we'll go early and show the line that's out there. Create some hype around it. Just use the resources that are available to you, because you don't know what's going to hit. So some sales it's going to be Craigslist, like we talked about in our other podcast, and other sales is going to be like Facebook, or I saw the signs, or whatever it is. So just don't be afraid to use everything that's available to you. You know, um, Even TikTok. A lot of times, if you put your location available on your TikTok, people in your area will see that TikTok. It's part of like their algorithm or whatever. So, for us, I don't know if anybody has seen our TikTok or not, but if they have, they can be like, I saw your thing on TikTok. You guys, looked cool, whatever. Like, I wanted to come check it out. So you have
I've
no idea.
had some people at work tell me they saw it on TikTok.
Yeah. So
It's
I mean
kind of
that
cool.
that's cool. Yeah. None of it's gonna hurt, unless you go and do something stupid. But
Have
be
you met me?
professional, be fun. You don't have to be super rigid or serious. Like you can even be a little bit of self-deprecating, but uh, as a business owner, you don't want to do too much of that, because then you're kind of discrediting yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's
yeah.
just you gotta balance that.
Um,
Go ahead.
what would you say like if would be our most unique find at one of our estate sales that we've ran?
Hmm. I mean, the one sale that we did 2 weekends on, oh, it's escaping me now. It was like a New Mexican Native American wooden doll. I don't even know if you want to call it a doll. Wooden statue with like multiple, um, like children carved into it. Like, and it was probably about the size of a grapefruit or something. Um, and Finding out that that thing has huge value, um, more than what I originally would have just guessed. Like, to me, I thought it looked like I could sell it for $5. And then when I researched it, I was like, well, that would be silly. Somebody would get a crazy find, um, and then it had a lot of value. So that was pretty cool. Um, they had some other cool stuff there too, like the Star Trek stuff. You know. What about
Oh
you?
yeah, that was really cool. It wasn't like it wasn't only one of the things that we sold, but that same house, they had a flute that the actor who plays Picard in Star Trek Next Generations had played, and then signed for them. It
Mhm.
wasn't it wasn't for sale or anything like that, but that was like if you've ever watched Star Trek and you're a Star Trek fan, like that was like a really cool story.
Who
But
signed that giant poster with like the ribbon?
I've the guy who plays LaForge from Reading Rainbow.
I don't know his name. Lamar
Santa
Burton.
book. Yeah, him.
Okay.
Reading
Yeah,
Rainbow.
that was cool. That was signed because they saw him at a convention. You know, that was really
They're
cool.
big
But there
Trekkies.
was no certificate of authenticity, so it
Yeah,
sold, but not for what if we
not
could have
worth
got
it.
it certified, then it would have gone for more. But it was cool. They
Mhm.
were big Star Trek guys or people. Um, what else, man? What else? I'm sure we found some
There was
other cool
some
stuff.
at the hoarding house. There were some really interesting knives. Like there was a lot of like knives that looked exactly like all of the other knives, but there were some really interesting knives that when we looked up, there was some pretty high value. For that. I mean, like for me, a knife's a knife, right? Like I don't put
Yeah.
much stock in that, but like that's not my interest. That's not my forte. But like looking it up and seeing like the value of some of them was pretty crazy.
Yep. Finding like we had a couple of the original display cases for the stores.
Yep.
You know that they all sold. You know, I think finding out the actual like demand was
Oh my
surprising.
gosh.
Um, it was crazy. You
Knives and
know,
guns. Pew
yeah.
pew
I
pew
mean, we
pew.
are in Pennsylvania, so
PA.
yeah.
Get her done. Um. Yeah. The guns. The gun. Like I mean, it's just not our background. We neither of us own guns. Neither of us care. Like a lot of my siblings own guns, and they like talk about it, and I have like zero interest in them as like a hobby. Well, I mean, like it's just like why like that's not where I want to spend my time, right? Like
Yeah.
nothing like against that. Um, but like they're like so like we didn't have a background in it, so we didn't know the value. So that was we got them appraised, and there were some guns that I would not have guessed were as valuable as they were. Um, and so like that was interesting. Like going and like other people like watching other people get excited when I brought the guns in, like when they're like looking at some of the guns and then like going over like why they were valuable. History is always like very interesting to me, like learning the history of why something is the way that it is or why it's valuable. I think that's something that interests you a lot as well, like learning the history of stuff.
hmm That's the
Um,
most interesting for me.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big history guy. So
Yeah. We don't really like one of the things in our outline is talking about like bidding wars. We don't do bidding wars. Right? We're not an auction company, so like we're not gonna like sell to someone else because they're standing there and you offer me 100 and then they offer me 150. Like if you're the customer and you brought it up to us and like we'll negotiate with you, and then if you decide to not go forward with our negotiation, like then we'll go to the next person, right? Like who might have been standing there. But we don't do like bids where like you could start bidding and then we get up to a certain price before it sells. It's just not how we run our estate sales. There are some that do that, that are not like classified as auctions, and that's a bad customer experience. Like you're
absolutely.
like we actually at one of our sales sold an item like we had held it for the customer for like 3 hours, right? Like we told them in advance, like hey, and like he's like yeah I'll be there
We
starting
held
to
it
say
longer than we said
yeah
we were going to hold it. Like
right.
a lot longer.
It was a repeat customer. It was a multiple weekend. It was the horror house. So it was over like 6 weeks that we were there. We had talked in advance, and he said he'd be there at X time. And then we ended up selling it like at 12:30, and then of course he showed up at 12:40, and like the customer that bought it ended up like almost like mocking him. So we try not to do those type of things for that reason, because it leaves a bad taste. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, it was like the last sale, and like we were trying to get stuff out, and we waited till the last possible moment. That stuff happens. Um,
And
but
we were closing at 1, by the way.
yeah, yeah. So there wasn't a lot of time left in the final sale.
And you had actually reached back out to him and he wasn't responding. So there's a
Yeah,
lot of things that was telling us that he wasn't coming back,
right,
because
right. Yeah.
customers do that sometimes. Um, but just to touch on that, like customer experience part of like the bidding. So like if you were shopping at a store at like Best Buy and they had a price on there and you bring it up and say, "Hey, it's damaged. Can you give it to me for a lower price?" And they might do that for you. Best Buy might say, "You know what? Yeah, like I can give it to you for this much." The person behind him in line is never going to say, "Well, I'll pay you 20 bucks more than that for it." Like it's just not going to happen. And like no professional place would ever let customers get into that bidding war. So we sure as heck are not going to do that. We're not going to ruin one customer's experience at the like to get somebody else something. Like, it's just not going to happen. So if and we've had customers tell us, "Oh, I would have paid this for it." Okay, but this is where we said it was worth. This is what they agreed on. Okay. If you want to pay more for it, go tell them. They want to sell it to you, let them sell it to you. Like we sold it, and that's the price that we sold it for, and we're just not
Hmm.
gonna do that. It's just a really bad experience because that first customer who let's say they got outbidded, they're not coming back to our sales anymore, and they're gonna tell other people that they had a bad experience. The guy who did the outbidding most likely won't say anything to anybody, and he'll just come to our next sale. You know what I mean? And try to do it again if he can. So
Hmm.
we set that up, we make it very clear, and we've never had an issue, and I don't expect to ever have an issue.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to touch on, or you want to close it out?
Oh, yeah, something that we never ever say, and hopefully somebody's still listening to us at some point. Um, if you are on YouTube, you know, please like, subscribe, share,
Yes.
all that good stuff. If you're listening to us on the podcast networks, any one of them, we thank you. We appreciate you. We
Yes.
think it's really cool. Um, Look us up
We're
on YouTube
excited
so
to
you
have
can
you
make comments because I have no way to see if you're making comments on anything else. I don't know how to do that, so I don't see any like I don't know what platform you're using. I don't know if you're using Apple. I don't know if you're using Amazon. I don't know what you're using. I just know through the RSS link like it fans out, so we don't know
here.
like
Yeah.
necessarily
Where
what it
you're
is. But
watching,
thank you for listening. We appreciate you, and check us out on YouTube. Um, yeah,
or anywhere else where you listen to your podcasts.
yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching Halcyon Days, the estate sale journey, and beyond.